that sports are great. It's a healthy, beautiful, and exciting activity. And even if you have never been a sports fan in your life, you've probably heard about the latest achievements of some professionals. But not all athletes behave honestly. And sometimes to win a gold medal or a cup, they can do much more than just train. Today we're going to talk about the most surprising and daring cases of the sports cheating. Let's get it on. Tonya Harding, Boris Onyshenko. A scandal involving Soviet pentathlete Boris Onyshenko occurred at the 1976 Montreal Olympic Games. This athlete was the leader in all competitions: riding, shooting, swimming, fencing, and athletics. With his help, the team of Soviet athletes was heading straight for victory. But in the fencing competition, the judges and the public realized that the light was shining even before Onyshenko touched his opponent with his sword. We're talking about the light. That light helps determine how many hits the athlete has made. At first, it was considered a technical failure in the system, but after a detailed audit, it was revealed that the Soviet athlete was also a good engineer. The athlete had a button on his EP with which he could activate the light without actually hitting his opponent. The weapon was replaced, and Onyshenko defeated his rival without the need for. However, the story doesn't even end there. At the end of the second day of the tournament, it was announced that Onyshenko, and together with him, the entire USSR team, would be disqualified. The athlete was expelled from the Olympic Village and was disqualified for life. Sergio Matsuning, to receive a cash prize for participating in the 1999 Comrades Marathon. It was necessary to finish in the top 10, and Sergio Matsuning did it without any problems. He finished 9th and was ready to get his money, but happiness didn't last long. The judges, having reviewed the race, noticed that Sergio had left the race several times for a short time. You're probably wondering what the problem is. Maybe the runner wanted to go to the bathroom. Well, that is possible. But how do you explain that every time Sergio returned to the race, his wristwatch moved from one hand to the other? The judges found this very strange and carried out an investigation that confirmed the fraud. It turned out that instead of Sergio, a part of the marathon was run by his twin brother, Fika. And the men changed places several times throughout the race. While one brother was running, the second was catching up with him on a bicycle. The cunning athlete was disqualified for 11 years, but the scammer didn't change. In 2010, he returned to the tracks, and it was disqualified again. But that's another story. The Spanish Paralympic team. Among professional athletes, Paralympians are particularly admirable because they're just amazing, and their willpower is enviable. That's why the Spanish team's deception is still so striking. And the fact is that in the basketball competitions, in which people with intellectual disabilities participated, Spain included completely healthy people. Some of them had even participated in the World Championship in Brazil. However, when they were invited to participate in the Paralympic Games, none of the team, and even though in the Spanish team there were 2 people with intellectual disabilities, they hardly entered the field. Of course, having the advantage, the Spaniards defeated all their rivals. When the fraud was revealed, there was a big scandal. The leaders of the Spanish Paralympic Committee resigned. The national team was disqualified in the foul. Winners of the Paralympic Games in Sydney were the basketball players of the Russian national team. Altran Enderlein. The East German athlete competed in the Tran was first in the overall standings, but the judges were suspicious of the athlete's speed. After a thorough check, it was shown that, in violation of all GDR rules, the running team heated their sled, which is prohibited by the use rules. The girls lost their medals. Although this didn't prevent Enderlein from working on the Olympic Committee after finishing her career. World-famous footballer Diego Maradona like any famous person, is far from being a saint. The situation, of course, can be controversial, but the fact is, in the 51st minute of the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal against England, the great Maradona scored a goal with his hand. As you know, the use of hands in football is forbidden, but the famous Argentine athlete actually sent the ball to the opponent's goal with the help of his fist. The referee considered the goal legal, and, despite the indignation of the English players, the goal was validated. In the post-match conference, Maradona said the ball was scored partly by his hand, and partly by the hand of God. Imagine that an unknown athlete comes to town and unexpectedly wins the marathon with one of the best female results in marathon history of all time. You may think she's a talented person who, until now, had been in hiding. But the fact is that Rosie Ruiz ran the Boston Marathon with a record time of 2:3:156, and at the finish line, she looked too good for a person who'd just gotten over such a long distance. In addition, she could vaguely remember the details of the race, and the judges and other runners didn't remember her in the group of leaders. A little strange, isn't it? Isn't it? Everything became clear, thanks to two witnesses who said that Ruiz entered the race from the crowd 1 kilometer from the finish line. Other people remembered seeing the runner in the subway. That way, she ran through most of the marathon. It's not a bad idea in case you don't have a twin sister. As a result, Rosie was disqualified, and marathon organizers now use special chips. Perhaps one of the main rules of professional sports is to give all you have to win. In the end, most athletes literally dedicate their lives to setting records and winning medals, so no one will play using only half of their strength. Or maybe so. During the Olympic badminton tournament in London, 2012, 4 teams of players at once decided to relax a bit. The fact is that after the draw procedure, many teams or individual players could choose their opponents in the quarterfinals. As a result, the athletes played averagely. The strongest lost to the weakest. In short, the couples decided to choose weaker opponents and relax a little, but something went wrong. The athletes were first booed by outraged spectators, then shamed by judges, and finally disqualified, accused of not using their best efforts to win a match and conducting themselves in a manner that's clearly abusive or detrimental to the sport. Do you think that was fair? What don't players do to help their team? Here's a case of strange self-sacrifice. Occurred in September 1989 during the World Cup qualifying matches. The Chilean team was losing 1-0 to the Brazilian team. There were 25 minutes left before the final whistle, when suddenly a firework fell on the field from the field stands of the Brazilian fans, which hit the back of the Mirana. And with her sons, Chilean goalkeeper Roberto Rojas, the soccer player, immediately collapsed on the grass, holding his head, and his teammates ran toward him. As a result, Rojas, with deep cuts on his face, was taken off the Mirana. Emery Field, and the captain of the Chilean team said that the team would not return to the field. It looked like the Chileans would get a technical win and go straight to the World Cup. But after watching the replay, the referees began to doubt Rojas's honesty. It was later discovered that the cuts were made by the goalkeeper himself, who hid a scalpel in his glove. For feigning a dangerous injury, FIFA awarded Brazil the technical victory in the match by 2-0, suspended Rojas from and banned Chile's national team from participating in the 1994 World Cup. However, in 2001, after an apology, FIFA withdrew Rojas's disqualification, and today, he works as a goalkeeper coach for Brazil's sport team in Recife. Did you know that in addition to conventional doping, there is also Mechanical doping? In other words, making illegal changes to the sports equipment? Da. Femke van den Dries. A famous 19-year-old Belgian cyclist was one of the first to do this at the World Championship. As a result of what? The radio frequency analysis in the frame of the bicycle, they found a hidden engine.
Made it to the end? Then you clearly deserve a gold star. Hit that subscribe. Share this video with your chaotic friends and comment whatever's on your mind. Yes, even your intrusive thoughts.